So how do we want to integrate the data? Now we have two different kinds of integrating the data. And the first one is probably the well-known in the Datavault area, that we have becoming the same information, or the information about the same objects from two different sources. Maybe I'm becoming Swiss product information from my Japanese ERP, some product information, and I want to load it into two different satellites, but in the output I want to unify it. And this is the first thing I will show you now here in the Datavault Builder. To do that, we have already a model, so step one is done. This will not change just because we're adding a new source system. I will go in here, and my colleagues prepared here already the connection to our second source system. If they wouldn't have done it, I have here a list of many different connectors where I can connect to many different databases, files, NoSQL sources, like Parquet files or Kafka files, Kafka's topics. So as well here, I need to insert the password. And now it will connect to the source system. It will read the metadata and offer me all the tables that are there. I will start now with the product information. So we have here a product ID, we have some minimal, maximal sales price and average price. So I take just all the columns. And I will skip now a lot of options because the tool is built around the agile way. So I can add delta loading or CDC loading later. That's all supported, but I will just show the basic functionality by now staging a full load. But what happens in the background? Already now, this job was added to the master job. It was added to documentation. It was added to data lineage and is prepared for deployment. So I have a production-ready staging load just by adding the table here. Table was created in the database. The data was loaded. So I could go here into my data viewer and start testing my data. I skip this step because I want to show the data viewer later. And now to this product tab that we already have here, we can click on it. We will see what are the existing loads, and the existing loads are coming from a system called Willibald Webshop, and the key is the product ID. We can preview as well the contents, so we would see what is the number range of this business keys that we can compare it with the new system. And this is an interactive way that we're not just modeling somewhere, but we're working with the model and the data at the same time. So let's add here a new load from the new source system. We have only one table, so it's pretty simple. And let's select the product ID. And this looks already good. Let's test it. We have a business key checker, so it checks it for uniqueness and tells us, yes, that's fine. The data we're getting is clean. So I'm skipping here as well a lot of options. We come back here later. And now it can create the hub load and the satellite. And as well here, we're production ready. Documentation was updated, data lineage was updated, the loads are done, everything is prepared. I can start loading the data. And now the benefit of automation is that it knows that it needs to go back to the staging table. It needs to extend it to have columns for the business key and the hash key and all the technical stuff. Your business users or your data modelers don't need to do that. The tool knows how the dependencies between the layers are. So let's preview it, and here we have the first output of our data already historized. Yes, we had only one load, but from now on it will create a history. So the next step is then we need to create as well an output. So let's create here in our dimension model section, but don't worry, you can do here flat tables, normal form output as well. We define the grain of our output. So this will be the product. We can select if we want to output the data only from one of the sources, but no, remember, in our use case, we want to integrate the information from two different systems into the same row. So I go back here to my live demonstration. I say I want to output all the keys in the hub. I can select the temporal perspective because our data vault is historized already. So it contains history, but maybe for a current list of current products, I just want to output the as of now view. So I select here the one. In the other case, it would create pit tables, pit loads, everything. I just select at the business level what I want to achieve. And this is what I get usually from my data consumers, what gives them value. Now I can select from the two different satellites here from the web shop. I select the product name. I select the list price. I skip all the other attributes. And now I go to my roadshow source system. And this is where these products are sold not only in the web, but directly to clients on the road. And we can add here the minimal product price and the maximal product price that we achieved during the roadshow, and we can compare that. So let's save that. And in the first version, this is a virtual layer. So I just need to have a look at the data, and I already see now the integrated information. And we can check if this makes any sense. If the list price is $2, the maximum achieved price was $2, and here the minimal was 180. Looks quite fine. I would check that with the business user, but we see already here we have something to deliver to the business user that he can test, and that makes sense. He doesn't need to care about technical stuff. Now the business user comes back and say, hey, I want to see with this product as well the product category. So we can follow here this link. And this link is possible to follow because we defined it here in our data model. And for the roadshow, I didn't define this relation, but this relation was already defined from the Willibald web shop. So I can follow this relation. I can go to the category and select the category name. And now the tool warns me, hey, you have 2 times name in the output. That will be hard to understand. So yes, let's do here like a category, or even to say that this is the product category. Let's store that. Let's preview it. And automatically we get all the combined information. And we see here as well, we have here a nice example. It looks like this product was never sold on the roadshow. So it gets only the list price, but still it gets the product category, stuff like that. Good. So we could go here. And the only thing that we need to do now as the last point is to publish it. And now we are production ready. So now we went from the stage into the vault. We created the interface. We have decided not to put in the first version any rules, and we published it into the presentation layer without writing one line of code. So now let's go for the second example. And this unification of data, if we get 2 different systems with orders, we can't combine them. There are different orders. So we will store them in separate satellites. We will define different interfaces, but we need to harmonize here the column names, because the column names from different source systems might be different. We could apply different business rules. Maybe there are different local tax rules that we need to apply. And then we want to union it as well. This is possible in a code-free way. So we go back here to the Datavault section, and we have here our order position. And to see what the result will be, let's do here some analysis, and let's take maybe the product name, and let's sum here the revenue order down by the category. And we see here from one source system, our tomatoes are going very well, and they achieved the revenue of 1,665 euros. So let's integrate the second source system. And to keep this open, I can just duplicate here my tab, that we can refresh that later. And now I will add here a second source table about our orders. And we already see that's in German. That's weird. We need to then harmonize it with our English product names. So I select the columns I want to load. Again, no delta loading. We can do that later. And let's add that. And after the data is loaded, we can go here into the data vault. And now it gets very interesting. Because they're telling us that this table is called order. So we say, that's fine. If this is an order, so let's take the order ID, which is Bestellung ID in German, and let's check for the uniqueness. And the system tells us, the Datavault Builder tells us, this is not unique. And it gives us examples of not unique. For the same order number, It looks that we have some differences. So we went back here to our business user, and the business user told us, oh yes, sorry. If we are on the road, on one paper, we usually write different products, but every product can be only once on the product, because if the customer buys two of the same, we would just indicate number how many and not indicate twice the product. So we already found a problem, and this is in a real world scenario something that happens again and again. If you're testing your data with the Datavault Builder, we detect stuff that wasn't detected before. So let's take in here the product number, let's retest it. That's fine. And let's now hurry a little bit up. So it created now the hub load and everything, and I will not load it here manually. I just go to my operations job and say, hey, for the roadshow system, load everything that needs to be loaded. I could schedule it here. I can use external schedulers to schedule it here, because we're production ready as well at the operations level. So all my data was loaded into the Vault again. Now we see we have the two satellites, and now we go to the dimension model. And here already a colleague of mine prepared the desired output for our Willibald webshop system. That's the one that we have seen in the data viewer here. And we want to now match it with the data from our new source system. So I add here a related business object. If we go back here to our PowerPoint, so what we have seen was one system was already here. It had the column names we want, and now we want to create the output for the second system and harmonize the column names. So let's go back here to the demo, and let's take now the roadshow system. Let's take the satellite that we have created, and now it will offer to match our output. So I take here the roadshow information, and we see now here this is English, and this here is German. So I can now drag and drop German words on the English output, and it shows me already how I filled it from my other source system for indicating on how I should map it here. So we have the amount, we should have the price. But the funny thing is, in this system, the price is not the price, but it is the revenue. So let's do it like this. And let's store that. But we see now, if we preview the results, we have a problem. We don't have the product name. And my report was here based on the product name, so I need to get it somehow. So let's add this. We're working agile, so let's be honest, I have forgotten it in the last step, but now I have seen it, so let's add it. So let's define the key from the order position to my product. So what is identifying from my roadshow ordered product? It's the product ID. Let's test for uniqueness. It shouldn't be unique. I'm expecting that because hopefully I'm selling the same product several times. That looks okay. So automatically the tool marks it as not unique. It doesn't offer me to create a satellite. It's not at the same grain. And let's do it as well for the order to be just complete. It will be the order ID. That looks good. And now we will create a relation between them. And I'm explaining not in detail what I'm doing here. But we see now here that we have now for two different systems, the two different connections. So if we go back to PowerPoint, we have created now here the relations for the two systems, and we can use them now in the different output layers. I just double click here, and here now through the roadshow connection, I can go to the product. I can select from the product here. Product name. And maybe you see already, I'm now creating output for roadshow, but I'm profiting that I already created for the product list some information from the web shop. And as well for the category, we can use the link created by the web shop to go here to the category, put it here to the category name. Let's store that. Let's preview it. And it's missing because I forgot to load the data. So you see it's really live demonstration. But this is as well what we're preaching. Test every step. So you already know exactly what you have done in the last step, and it's very easy to fix that. We see now the information, we see the revenue. So we can go now back to our report, and I don't need to change the report. You can just remember the tomatoes were 1,665. We refreshed that, and they're still the same, but some other objects changed because they were sold by the other source system. We can as well preview here which kind of object we're selling here. And we will find them as well here in the data preview. So this is coming now from our second source system. So the last thing that we need to do is just to publish that and say we are happy. Let's refresh that, and now let's test really the final output, and this number should now change. And it changed from 280 to 283. So we're done, we have tested it. So the last thing is that we check now our data lineage. We would see how it looks like. We would understand if everything makes sense. We could try our operations job. They're already done. We can test for performance. We can have a look at documentation, regenerate it, and now this is being generated based on what is there, not what should be there. So if I would go to the database and delete something, it would be updated automatically. And this information is accessible in a way that you can bring it into your report. So you can bring that into your Power BI Click Tabular report without needing to write this kind of metadata and documentation yourself. You get views at the database level. So the last thing is what I do. I finish my cycle. I compare now my local environment against Git. And now it will show me what we have created during this few minutes that we worked here in the tools. I can say not equal. And I see now at the logical level all the differences, what I have changed in my sandbox, and I decide now the only thing I'm interested in is bringing these interfaces to my Git. I forgot about all the other stuff I have done, and the tool tells me no, there are dependencies, you need to include that, otherwise it will not work. And like this, I can now go and commit it with a commit message back to Git. So this is the full development lifecycle of starting from something that somebody else did, bringing it into my sandbox, adding a new source system for two different entities in two different ways, testing everything, and sending it back to Git.